What up, everybody? It's your boy Kentario, and I'm back again for another episode of Christ and Comics. And here on this channel, our focal point is looking at anime, manga, comic books, and popular media to see if there is a gospel message that can or cannot be found within that type of media. Now, if you like that type of content, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That way you can get a heads up as to when I am putting out a new video. Also, to boost this video within the YouTube algorithm, please make sure that you hit that like button. And also that way I know the type of content that you all are enjoying. Not only that, I love to hear from you also. Please make sure that you leave a comment letting me know any questions or feedback that you may have on this video. Black Panther Wakanda Forever was an absolutely astounding, and I mean astounding, movie.
Oh yeah, baby! We have the power!
Do you realize what this means? I was absolutely blown away watching this movie. And as we are doing this video, I am going to be aiming to simply do a review of the movie, hit on some key points and messages that I found throughout the movie, some points that I caught, some things that whether or not that was the goal of what they were doing, it just stood out to me. And then at the end, like we do on this channel, we will be hitting it from a Christian's point of view as to whether or not there is a gospel message that can be found within the movie of Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. Let's get it. Now, as we're getting into the review, this movie starts out with them, of course, doing the funeral for Tchalla. Tchalla had gotten sick.
What?
He had gotten sick. They didn't immediately say exactly what sickness that he got, but they said he was sick. We could assume that that was cancer, based off of the amazing, impactful, life-transforming actor Chadwick Boseman, who he himself had died of colon cancer. And so we could assume that that was the case in what they were doing with his character here in the movie. But his sister Shuri was doing everything that she could to remake the heart-shaped herb. And due to Killmonger having destroyed the rest of those crops for the heart-shaped herb, she had to come up with a synthetic version. However, she couldn't quite come up with the right one, and even the last one that she had made, she didn't make it in time before he passed. And they held a ceremonial funeral for the passing of the King of Wakanda, Tchalla. This fast forwards then to a year later, and a year later, of course, Shuri is still mourning the loss of her brother, not in an expressive fashion, but by instead staying in her labs continually. And on the background, and when it comes to ruling Wakanda, Queen Rwanda...
Is that Frost?
T'Challa's mother has taken up that role of leadership once again, and of course is needing to speak with the leaders in other countries to address the fact that they yet still have not received, or the doors have not been opened to them from Wakanda to be able to trade and use vibranium. But she sets for the premise that you will not be using and manipulating Wakanda like you are hoping to do.
We don't do that here.
As an attack was made on them to steal their vibranium. Now, this leads to where I believe it was an American team, including several agents, up to about 30, going and venturing out into the oceans and other places to find vibranium. And there was a breakthrough, being that they had a device that could detect vibranium, and they went to find this in the ocean. But their team ended up being attacked. Now that this team has been attacked, this has resulted in them assuming that this was an attack done by Wakanda. Queen Rwanda, as well as her daughter Shuri, she tries to get her out of the lab, spend some quality time with her as mother and daughter rather than as queen and princess, to bring her out of that shell that she has built, bring her out of that lab so that they could, open up and so that she could express what it is that she was feeling. And Shuri was adamantly not interested in opening that door because of what would become of her had she opened that door to her feelings. She would be someone that, as she put it, would want the world to burn.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
And so, oh God, I kind of want to hit on that. We're going to hit on that later because that's amazing. That's amazing, even her saying that being a line in the movie. But in this moment, they are approached by the leader of the actual attackers of that American voyage ship. And this is known as Namor, as they pronounce him, being from that they are taking this from the Mesoamerican Afro-Latino perspective with the creation of Namor in this case, aka as we know him in Marvel, Namor. And he approaches them, breaking through the security and the barriers of Wakanda, getting to where the Queen is without anyone knowing that he is there. And he is proposing that, hey, look, because of what you have been doing by opening the doors of people to be able to know of vibranium and possibly pursue vibranium, due to your rejection, they are now seeking vibranium in my oceans. And I need this to be dealt with. So he proposes that you find the scientist that created the device that creates vibranium and bring that person to me, and I will kill them in order to ensure that they are no longer able to search out for vibranium. And he threatens this by saying, if you decide not to do this, I will come back with my armies and we will take you guys out because there's a lot of us. And then he leaves. Not only that, in the midst of having this conversation without them knowing, he drops the device that they stole from that voyage ship to them to research. And Shuri determines that where the creator of this device is located. They find out that this is in fact a young college student known as Rory Williams, who is the creator of said device. Being that she is nothing but a 19-year-old young woman,
I'm warning you, do not take another step toward me.
They decide we are not going to deliver you over to Wakanda, but we're instead going to, we're not going to deliver you over to Namor. We're instead going to bring you to Wakanda and protect you. We'll figure something out with Namor and his people later on, but first we need to make sure that you are safe. In the midst of them trying to get her safe, they get chased by the FBI, who have been keeping constant surveillance on her, again, because they're the ones that had access to her device in the first place. And so they're chasing the Wakandas. This is Okoye and Shuri, who are trying to escort Ruri. In the midst of getting chased, they get attacked by the Talakanians. I probably pronounced that incorrectly, but warriors of Talokan. They are the ones that end up attacking them. Atlanteans, if you want to go with the comic route. And in this attack, this results in not only Okoye being taken out, but also Shuri and Ruri being taken in by the warriors of Talokan.
Boy, if you don't...
Okay, now this leads to the Queen making plans to ensure that Shuri is brought home safely because they don't know what they are planning. She does not know what Namor is planning to do to her only remaining child, her daughter Shuri. They have no idea what they're going to do to the Princess of Wakanda. So in the midst of this, she reaches out to Nakia, the love interest of T'Challa in the first Black Panther movie, to get her help because she is well skilled in spying and even more so assassination, as you end up seeing in this movie. But in the midst of this, before she even gets to this point, Namor is taking this time to not only converse with Shuri about, his history, where it is that he comes from, what's led up to the Talakanians' existence and their people dwelling here in the ocean. He also offers there being in this case, I would interpret this as a proposal. He was proposing to Shuri. He gave her the bracelet that his mother wore on her wrist. He gave that to Shuri to offer to be in an alliance with them, with the Wakandans. And so we see this relationship being built in a sense. We see this alliance being proposed. And now she's having to consider this. But what Shuri is focused on is, hey, let's be at peace. Let's not have to kill this girl to do this. Which we see that is tapping into a lot of political warfare that we see, where it's the sacrificing of the few to save the many, where we see Shuri taking the approach of no one has to die. And so this leads to Nakia actually rescuing them and freeing them at the cost of killing one of the people of Talokan, a maiden, if you will, that was caring for and providing for Shuri and Ruri while they were in captivity. But this provokes the anger of Namor.
This is Sparta!
And so in this moment, as they have made it safely back to Wakanda, Wakanda is now being attacked by the warriors of Talokan and causing several casualties, including that of Queen Rwanda. Moment of silence for the Queen. No. Okay, don't want to get a copyright strike. But with the passing of the Queen, man, pause. When I tell you that hit, I wasn't ready for it. I could have assumed it. I really could have assumed that the Queen was going to die. But I didn't see it coming. I was like, she's got to make it. This woman is so powerful, so strong. She has been through so much. She's not about to die. They're not going to do this to us. But we lose the Queen. And you know that door that I told you Shuri was talking about not opening because she'll make the world burn? That door flew wide open. She's out for blood. So in using some of the material that she got from Talokan, from Namor, the bracelet has the remnants of what made them Atlanteans in the first place. She uses that, combining that with what she has to create the heart-shaped herb, and now end up actually making a version of it, a synthetic effective version of it. She takes of that, and now she is empowered by that of the powers of the heart-shaped herb, and takes up the mantle of the Black Panther. And she sets out with a plan to take down Namor, to take on the Talokanians, and they end up going into battle. And in this battle, we see that Shuri is out for blood. She says, I'm going to get revenge. I don't care what nobody says. Even M'Baku, known from being the funny guy in the movie, the brute of the movie, demonstrates a level of compassion and empathy and wisdom where he is trying to encourage her to more so make peace rather than war. But she chooses to go for blood, especially because of who she sees after taking the heart-shaped herb. So she goes to battle. She is fighting against them. Several lives of Wakandans and people of Talokan being lost in the midst of this battle. Even up to the point where Shuri has Namor on his back, preparing to kill him. But after she remembers so much of what she has seen of Talokan, of what she has seen of her people, things, how they could have been different, but even more so hearing the words of her mother tell her that show him who you are. Does she offer, instead of her taking his life, that they form an alliance? She's not offering her hand in marriage, but she is offering an alliance. She offers an alliance with the people of Talokan and Wakanda coming together because another enemy is sure to show up at their doorsteps. And so they form this union together. She, instead of taking up royalty and taking up kingmanship, decides to go and leave with Nakia and live with her. And M'Baku is last seen being the one to enter in and go for the tribal ritual battle to see who will now be king of Wakanda. And in the midst of Shuri leaving, Shuri ends up beating her unknown nephew, known as Toussaint, also named Tchalla. And that is where our story ends. This is the review of Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. Now, this leads me to making a couple of points that I've seen throughout the entirety of the movie that I think were golden, that I think were some messages that you could pick up. And you know, you can disagree. My daughter disagrees with me. I know a lot of people who watch this video is probably going to disagree with me, but I just want to make these points because I think this is an amazing thing. One of those points, let's start with the antagonist of the movie, and that being Namor, aka Namor, who is based off of the Submariner in Marvel Comics, who, you know, normally is portrayed as a white guy, sure, whatever you want to call it. He has wings on his feet. He is discovered to be a mutant. So now we can see, of course, with Namor being in the MCU, that this is a partial introduction of mutants into the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the way that they portray this man, I would say, though they do a cultural change, is pretty comic book accurate. No! This man doesn't hold back. He goes in for his people. He goes in the comics for Atlantis, in this case for Talokan and the people of Talokan. He don't play no games.
This is Sparta!
He don't play no games. Man, when I tell you that was an absolutely amazing demonstration of antagonism, of anti-heroism, boy, he was sick with it. And there's a lot of people that have already expressed on TikTok that they are Namor apologists, or Namor apologists, which I think is amazing. And one of the things that I think is amazing with this character too, other than his savagery, which we'll get into in a second, is how they portray him being called Namor versus being called Namor. When he first tries to, because his mother passes, he goes to try and bury his mother, he encounters the colonization of the Spanish country. And so he ends up taking out those people. And they saw him as a devil for what he did. And they said he had no love in his heart. And that is reflective, in a sense, symbolic to being that he had lost someone that is the closest to him to show him love, being that of his mother. But his love now is limited to and held to primarily that of the people of Talokan, which is why he fights so hard to protect them and make sure that their existence remains secret, and that no one can get to Talokan to take of their wealth and their riches or impose any threat to them as a people, period. Like I said, when he threatened the queen, when he threatened Shuri, I mean, look, the dude got in without you even noticing. If he wanted to, he could have killed both of them right then and there, but he didn't. He held conversation. And he made his expectations clear. Bring me the scientists, or I will wipe you out. He tried to show peace to Shuri, offering an alliance, and some people could think a proposal. And they ended up killing one of the people of Talokan. And so he's like, all right, it's on. He goes in. How do you look? I don't get it, bro. He said this, man, and this blew the movie out of the water. This man said, bury your dead. You are the queen now.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
After killing Queen Rwanda, when I tell you I was mad, I wasn't mad at no more. I was mad, but I wasn't mad at him. I get it. But boy, was I heated. Angela Bassett is an amazing actress. She is an amazing actress. She ate her role. We'll come back to that. But to have lost her, boy, that hit so hard, and I get why Shuri's door was flung wide open, because that definitely probably would have been me. After everything else they lost, that would have been me. I would have been going out for blood on them more, for real. But man, he had so many savage lines like that. He even, when he was trying to propose to Shuri, he was like, I heard what you were saying, talking about if you really expressed yourself, you would make the world burn. Let's make the world burn together.
Oh, whoa.
I was like, God dang. My daughter's like, I would have ate that up. That would have been, he would have had me. He would have had me. I was like, come on, please. No, not the world burning. But I get it. You know what I'm saying? He was on his anti-hero game, bro. And here's the thing. Like I said, he's very comic book similar and accurate. Look, the way he's a regular opponent to the Fantastic Four, the way he wanted Susan Storm, bro, and he took on everybody just to get to that woman, he was low-key playing that same game coming for Shuri. He was low-key playing that same game. This dude knows how to get to women, bro. This man, look, Reed Richards, hide your wife. Hide your kids, hide your wife. He's coming. Namor is coming for your girl. This is the Mr. Stereo girl, is Namor. Bro, I'm telling you, amazing. The next thing I want to hit on, too, when it comes to this movie is I thought this was an amazing piece that maybe not a lot of people would agree with, but it still was amazing, and that being when they were hitting on the way that the things have changed within the hierarchy of Wakanda. A lot of people have saw this and said, they're trying to bring in this woke culture, women in power, women warriors, women rulers, all of this woke culture. I think y'all completely missed how more so traditionally accurate what was happening was.
What do you mean by that?
Because what you have, if you go all the way back to Civil War, when they first lost T'Challa wasn't trying to step into his kingship. T'Challa was out for revenge. So what do you do in those instances where your prince isn't looking to, one, step up to the role or go through the process of stepping up into the role? The queen now has to step into that role of leadership for the time being until a new king is chosen, which they followed by. Okay, so T'Challa finally comes into his role as king, like it's supposed to be, and she of course steps down, and traditionally so, and in some sense rightfully so. Now then we get to, oh no, now we done lost T'Challa. God rest the king. God rest the king. I hope he's in heaven having a marvelous time in the mansion that Jesus has prepared for this man, this God-fearing man, this Jesus-loving man. I pray that he's dwelling in the kingdom. So as his character has now passed away, the queen is now having to step back into this position. And a part of it, you could be asking the question, why? Why can't they just go to straight looking for a man to rule? Because now you have the princess who's locked herself in her laboratory. She's not looking to come out. She's not looking to rule. She's not looking for a prince to become king alongside her. That none of that is happening here. She's locked herself away. And we have oppositions coming from other countries. They need someone to step into ruleship. They need someone to show that Wakanda's not down just because we've lost our king. And that's exactly the role that Queen Wanda takes up, which in a traditional sense could and should be expected. She stepped into that. She did what it is that she has to do, right? And now we have where even when it came to Shuri actually being willing to step up, she wasn't looking to step up into rulership yet again. She's trying to step up into the Black Panther position versus being that and out for blood. But she still leads, and the people still listen to her because she is in fact the Princess of Wakanda. And this leads to, again, she ends up leaving. The movie ends with this. She left. And so what they do, they had M'Baku preparing to challenge whoever for who's now going to be king of Wakanda, bringing a male back into that position of leadership.
We have the power!
So you can quibble and argue as to whether or not they kept with, whether or not they were being woke or not. But these are the things that took place in the movie that demonstrated that men aren't being considered less than, or men aren't being pushed away and thrown off to the side so women can rule and have power. That's not what's happening here. You could quibble over the Dora Milaje and Nakia. Look, if you read Marvel Comics, and this is a shout out to King and Queen Lion on TikTok and on YouTube, and who owns Flame, who is a popular hitting Black Sands comic book series. He points out that, and in the comics show this as well, the women of Wakanda are known for being warriors, are known for having this level of equality within the culture of Wakanda. This is comic book accuracy that's being demonstrated in the movies. These are things that have been illustrated since, I would argue, maybe like 2009, 2010, maybe even earlier, to be a part of the illustrations of the Wakandan culture. So they aren't doing anything different when they have women in these positions of power, leadership, warriors, assassins, etc. This is common for them. But I love how they demonstrate that reality of political order and leadership. I thought that was an amazing piece to the story as well. Just a couple of hints to hit on, right? I thought this was a beautiful piece too that I don't think a lot of people caught on, because this plays into a lot of what we see happening into the MCU. It's not only the mutants that are being introduced into the MCU, it is also what you see, right? We just had Thor Love and Thunder. Thor Love and Thunder is demonstrating how the gods over the multiverse, I guess you could say, are not looking to operate according to their roles and positions. Other than the fact that Zeus was attacked, Zeus is sending Hercules to come for Thor, saying that, hey, now we're going to show them what the gods are really like. In Thor Love and Thunder, you have the god over Wakanda, the gods of Wakanda being illustrated there. However, when it comes to Wakanda and how they conduct themselves, other than the astral plane, you don't immediately see the manifestation of those gods, right? You don't see any gods showing themselves to Wakanda or to Talokan. But you have a representative operating in a god status through Namor. Namor is also known as Kulkur Khan here, who is the winged serpent god of this culture. And so with him being depicted here, you kind of have someone representing godship and doing what people expected God to do, protecting and caring for those that serve and love them. And he is fulfilling that role for his people. And even more so when you have this conversation between M'Baku and Shuri, M'Baku is acknowledging, look, you go and you kill their god, this will start an endless war between us and them. There will be no forgiveness. There will be no peace. But at the same time, Shuri's just mainly focused on, on getting her vengeance. And we're going to get into that piece too, because that's going to tie more with the Christian perspective. But you have this. I thought that was a beautiful piece too. Someone operating in godship, though he's not actually a god, but he knows the impact and the meaning of that. He doesn't necessarily see himself as a god, but he sees what it means for him to be in this position. And he owns that and operates according to that. He honestly, I didn't think to say this, but honestly, he takes care of his people far better than Thor does. Far better than Thor does. And you could quibble, you know, like, well, Namor doesn't really know himself, where Thor is trying to learn and know who he is. I mean, I think Namor is demonstrated to better understand who he is, and understanding the role that he plays and knowing what he has to do. And arguably, you could say he knows what it means to be a man. I'm going to throw that out there. Namor knows what it means to be a man. I think that's something, too, that is also caught within this movie. The last piece that I want to hit on when it comes to stuff that I see from the movie, right? You all know by now, if you're a consistent follower of my content, if you're new to this content, I need you to know this. I cannot stand Captain Marvel. I'm talking about the female Captain Marvel. Not Brie Larson. She plays her role as she's supposed to. Wonderful. The movie wasn't that interesting to me, but it was a decent movie except for one part. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to build it. We're going to build this. Y'all need
Because sometimes in life you're going to start slow. That's okay.
to understand this. We're going to build this. Okay? In the movie Captain Marvel, she becomes, of course, Captain Marvel. And however, what she's doing is taking on the mantle, being led by the Captain Marvel, who in this movie is portrayed as this old lady right here. And she dies from some random explosion, which broke my heart as a fan of Marvel, which broke my heart as a fan of the original Captain Marvel. Do you know why I'm a fan of the original Captain Marvel? It's not just because he's strong. It's not because he's just powerful. You know, I love. He's able to go toe to toe even with Thanos. That's how tough the original Captain Marvel is. He goes toe to toe by himself with Thanos. By himself. You can say, well, Captain Marvel can. No, she can't. She would be outsmarted because she would solely be dependent on power. I'm going to call it what it is. I'm going to say what I got to say. I hope my baby girl don't hate me for it. But no, I hated the way that they treated Captain Marvel. Have your Captain Marvel, have Brie Larson, let her do her, alright? Let her do the Marvel series, let her have Miss Marvel, her super fan. But when it comes to Captain Marvel, I'm a super fan. And here's why. Captain Marvel was the first hero to die of natural causes. He was the first hero in Marvel Comics to die of cancer. He was the first hero to have heroes show up at his passing on his deathbed as he was dying of this illness. And then we have this in the MCU being reflected in T'Challa's passing. That, man, when I tell you going from being so mad that they did Captain Marvel like that, and then they take that concept and bringing it to the MCU through T'Challa's passing, God, that hit hard. I don't think a lot of people understand how hard that hit, because what that meant when Captain Marvel passed, that spoke to the humanity and the natural vulnerability that although they're heroes, although they're seen as gods in a sense, their humanity is demonstrated here, where they still have these vulnerabilities too. They're not immune to this. They're capable of passing in this way, not just passing from, risking their lives and snapping, away the enemy, or them jumping in front of the bullets, or, taking the large blast to protect the loved one. We could lose that loved one in a natural way like this. And that's what made the passing of T'Challa, passing of Chadwick Boseman, so impactful, especially to the MCU. So I get a lot of people are upset that they incorporated T'Challa's Chadwick Boseman's passing with that imagery being demonstrated through T'Challa. But if you know Marvel Comics, for them to be able to do that is a beautiful message. That is so powerful. And it blew me away to see that they did that, man. I was drawn to tears seeing that in the movie, man. That was probably one of the best moments. But let's keep going. Let's go forward. We are now getting into the Christian perspective. Christian perspective, first and foremost, let's going to go back to the women first. Let's go back to the women first. What I would somewhat, and I say somewhat because it's minuscule, and you could say you're reaching. You could say I'm reaching, but I don't think I am. Is the way the relationship between mother and daughter, the losing of all the men in their lives, and them trying to hold themselves together, and the daughter trying to move forward. Though it's not exactly reflective, this is extremely similar to the story of Ruth in the Bible. For those of you that don't know the story of Ruth, she was from a totally different country. She's not naturally an Israelite. But Naomi, who is the mother of Ruth, the mother-in-law to Ruth, Naomi and her husband and her 2 sons ended up having to move out of Israel due to there being hard times. And then moving out of Israel, her 2 sons ended up marrying these 2 women from other countries, Ruth being one of them. But what ended up happening was both sons ended up dying, as well as Naomi's husband ended up dying. And in losing all of these leaders and these men, she's of course, heartbroken and suffering from loss. And what Ruth ends up saying, what Naomi ends up saying to these daughters, she's like, look, there's nothing I can do for you. There's nothing I can provide for you. It would be better for you to just go back to your home country, stay in your home country, remarry somebody else and live your life. Now, at first, they attempt to say, no, we want to be with you, but she continues to tell them to go and just leave. Now, where one of the daughters ends up leaving and going and, of course, doing her own thing, Ruth says, no, I'm still in your family. I married your son. I am in it for the long haul, basically. And so she goes back to Israel with Naomi. And she begins working in the fields of a man by the name of Boaz, who is the ruler at this time, to provide for food and money for Naomi to make sure Naomi's cared for. But as we know, Naomi's still in this sorrowful state, but Ruth is doing everything she can to provide for her. Long story short, Ruth ends up, of course, marrying Boaz, which brings Naomi and Ruth to this position of wealth to an extent and thriving now. And Boaz demonstrates to be a man who's capable of leading. But we see this aspect of this mother-daughter relationship and keeping each other even in the midst of this loss and supporting one another until, like I said, the women took the leadership until another male character could take up the position of leadership. You kind of have that happening with Naomi and Ruth. Ruth took up the position of leadership and making the provisions and providing for her mother-in-law until Boaz is introduced. And now we have another male lead person biblically illustrated here. So I think that is something that is amazing to reflect from a biblical standpoint that is demonstrated with the women in Black Panther. I think that is an amazingly powerful biblical relevance there. Some other things too that a lot of people don't focus on. This is a small tidbit I just got today from thinking about the movie. If you recall, like I said, when Shuri was, spending quality time with her mom, she said, if this door opens, then I will be one to make the world burn. And then all of a sudden, Namor shows up, coming up out of the waters. I thought that was so, because think about this, right? In the Bible, with Cain and Abel, God intervenes at the point of Cain being in wrath, being enraged, to tell him, he's like, hey man, you need to start doing better, because right now what's happening is sin is waiting at the door for you. And you will either choose, of course, to actually do better, or if you open that door to sin, you're going to do something horrible, which resulted in him killing his brother Abel. We have the similar illustration happening here, right, with the winged serpent god, Kul Khan, aka Namor, who is the winged serpent showing up just as Shuri is speaking of being at the door of this.
Do you realize what this means?
Rage and this destructive capabilities. Now the serpent comes up out of the water to entice and provoke, which is what we have happening throughout the entire movie. Namor is the one that provokes Shuri to this rage and this wrath. Another piece to that too is Shuri couldn't do anything about the passing of T'Challa because it's a sickness. She can't necessarily war against that or take her anger out on that, which is why she resulted in going to the lab. But with Namor killing Rwanda, she can now take her anger out on someone and something and put all of that force towards it. So she got that opportunity to do that very thing because of the provocation of the serpent. And I'm going to go there. The woman being the one to be provoked by the serpent. The woman being the one to be provoked by the serpent. Biblical ties. Eve was the one tempted by the serpent. Another thing too that is amazing here, I didn't get to talk about this too much in regards to Queen Rwanda.
This is Sparta!
Again, Angela Bassett, amazing actress. Amazing actress. She kills her role. She does this. This is a powerful quote here that is made within the movie. Is that she constantly, in 2 instances she says this. She says, you know, death is not the end, which is a traditional speaking on the part of Wakandans. Even Black Panther said that even at the passing of his father, he said, death is not the end. We see when he goes to the astral plane, he gets to see his father when he goes to the astral plane. Any Wakandan that passes, at least my understanding, anyone that's taken of the heart-shaped herb gets to go to this astral plane. So she says this in 2 occasions. Queen Rwanda says this to her daughter Shuri. And then she says this to her, I guess you could say daughter-in-law, Nakia. She says that to her as well. But we have this epic instance of acting and speaking. Amazing speaking. So originally what happened was Okoye, who is the general of the Dora Milaje, she was going to go find the scientists, but she asked that Shuri should come with her. And the queen was hard-pressed against it. Of course, this is my last remaining child. I don't want to put her life at risk. She's like, I will protect her at all costs. So them two end up going, and what happens, Okoye loses her fight, and they end up losing Shuri. She gets kidnapped. So the queen brings Okoye before her and strips her of her general position and of being a part of the Dora Milaje as a whole. And she begs for her position back, saying, I have given you all everything that I am. Please give me one more chance. Even one of the council of Wakanda speaks on her behalf, saying she killed her husband to demonstrate her loyalty to this life, to being a part of the Dora Milaje. And then the queen says, have I not given everything? Okoye can go, oh, this is so heavy. She said, Okoye can go to the grave of her husband and see him. But my family, all of my son and my husband are gone to be with the ancestors. I don't get to see them until I die. I have no place to go to see my family. And we see that because they take them up into the ship and fly away. So she don't get to go to the gravesite. So we see this wrestling in the character of Queen Rwanda, where she's demonstrating her heart, but she still demonstrates her royalty, her queenmanship, because she still gets back to operating according to leadership appropriately throughout the movie. You can quibble over whether or not she should have sent Nakia to go get Shuri. You can argue about that all you want to, but she did what she had to do as a mom and as a queen, right? So getting back to it, right, the warfare that she has going on within her, she does believe in death not being the end. She does believe in this tradition. She does believe in being able to see her family once again in the astral plane. But at the same time, that doesn't take away the heartache that she feels from having lost so much and still having to maintain this faith in her people and in her tradition and in the hopes for the future and in the hopes of the nation of Wakanda. For her to still have to hold that and wrestle with that, that is powerful. That in and of itself is really a lot of what we wrestle with as believers and as Christians. We definitely believe and have this hope of the life that we have in Jesus, of being able to go dwell in the kingdom, where I believe in my heart of hearts that is where Chadwick Boseman himself is in the kingdom of heaven. But it doesn't mean that the loss of someone so beloved, the loss of a loved one, does not still hold its impact here in this world. Even Jesus himself took time to cry over the loss of Lazarus, knowing that he was going to resurrect. Do you know how impactful death has to be for Jesus himself to mourn the death of someone and then show up and resurrect the man? If you know you can resurrect him and you still mourn, that says a lot about the impact of death. That says so much about the impact of death. And so we see that with Queen Rwanda. And this I believe this might be my last thing. One thing we got to give a shout out to is we have had 2 pronounced Christian actors to play leading roles within Marvel movies. Technically 3, but 2, particularly for some of the most popular, 2 of the most popular hard-hitting MCU movies, Black Panther 1 and Black Panther 2. Chadwick Boseman is a Christian, but also the actress who plays Shuri, Letitia Wright, is a professed Christian believer in Jesus Christ. And if you'll go and you can see here on this YouTube video here where she is doing a small interview with YouVersion, which is a popular biblical Bible app that a lot of people have downloaded. She speaks on what brought her to her faith, being that she was prophesied to during a very dark time in her heart and in her mind, where she was feeling this void and didn't know what to do. Someone called her in her moment of darkness to speak to her of who Jesus was, and she began to seek out who Jesus is. And in seeking out who Jesus is for herself, did she commit her life to Jesus. And we have this actress playing this lead role. Now, what's interesting about her playing this lead role is that as she is playing Shuri is actually a scientist character, someone who believes in the evidence, who believes in science. She doesn't care about too much about the Wakandan tradition. If anything, she would like to see that changed, or at least stretched a little bit. We see this in two senses. We see this, one, in how she locks herself away, reduces everything that she does to her science. We see this in how, again, this is more so of her passion of the world, but we see how she is interested in adaptable to the American ways and American life, which how she wanted to approach Riri Williams' character. We see that in how she gawks over the beauty of Talokan as she was brought there by the people of Talokan, and she got to see the beauty of this nation. She just got to observe. And although she may or may not see Namor as a god, she got to meet one, but she again doesn't acknowledge him as God, and she actually had the opportunity to kill him. So we kind of see that being illustrated here, of her not being a religious person. Even when she went to go see, when she took up the heart-shaped herb, she went to the astral plane. None of her family showed up except for Killmonger. And in her seeing Killmonger, that set her on the path towards her revenge even more. And as she came out, she's like, none of my family came to see me. Nobody from the astral plane of my loved ones came to see me. So, screw the gods, screw that. Like, she's demonstrating this hatred of religion, of the afterlife, and all of these things. She's demonstrating that hatred. And I speak to that to show a respect to the actress, though she is a person of faith, to be able to play such a role and play it so effectively and so impactfully that she is convincing to the people. She's convincing to me as a Christian of her being a person of non-belief. And I think that stems from her being someone who has lived a long life of not having such faith. So that speaks to her capabilities as an actress. She played this role so amazingly well. And last two things as we bring this video to a close. I don't think any of you noticed this, right? There's two things. One, everyone was mad because they did the passing of T'Challa versus recasting T'Challa. If you ask me, they technically did. How do you ask? Because T'Challa has a son. Though his Haitian name is Toussaint, his traditional Wakandan name is in fact T'Challa. And we know that Prince T'Challa will eventually rise to the occasion to take up his role as King of Wakanda. So we still have the Black Panther in the MCU. His role hasn't changed. But this last thing that I think is so interesting that I don't think a lot of people are asking this question. How? Listen, because Namor said this. He says he brought the sun to Talokan because they have this, as you see here, they have this big glowing light sitting atop the kingdom of Talokan. And he said, I brought the light to our people. They have access, continual access to vibranium. They wear it as a part of their, not as armor and weapons and things, but that's what makes up their nation and them as a people as well. And so they were able to bring the sun there. Now, if you think back to, if you think back to Iron Man and Tony Stark, he speaks of this when he speaks of the arc in his chest, it being like a miniature sun. You want to go even further back when you think of Spider-Man 2 with Dr. Octopus, where he says, to be able to hold the sun in your hands. Namor was the only one to bring the sun to him. He was able to manifest a continual energy for his people somehow. Now, I ask this question, however, because this is interesting to me. Either them as a people were able to make this, or they had to be in touch with somebody to be able to have access to something like this. And could this be speaking to Tony Stark's, either his father or his grandfather, or Tony Stark himself having provided this in some way or something like that. So I think this is an amazing piece to discuss and possibly look forward to for the future of the MCU, to see, you know, how all this came about for the history of Namor and the people of Talokan. And I think Namor is getting his own TV series as well. So we have a lot to look forward to in the MCU. But I pray that this video has blessed you. I pray that you all have been touched to see that there are some biblical cues and aspects within this movie that are actually blessings rather than curses, something positive rather than negative. And I pray that this has truly blessed you. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a blessed day. Peace.